Thomas Sendel, that's how that follows, especially because I didn't write him down. What's here with my sister. I've been asked to give the honor to read some of the memories of Grandma and Grandpa, Harry and Jan, henceforth called by me Grandma and Grandpa. And I do public speaking. I am the oldest grandfather. Or I'm sorry, I'm the oldest child of my grandpa and grandma. I'm not yet grandfather, I'm just happy. You have to tell me, I'm very cross.
Speaking the mic.
Speaking of mic, sorry, I'm not used to public speaking, as I've said. I'm going to relay some stories and memories from the next generation of the Sendels. And I'm going to start with Clayton, who's the youngest son of Susan Sendel, who grew up in a military family. He had this to say. Grandma and Grandpa's house was always such a source of stability for Zach and me when we were growing up. We moved a lot. In hindsight, it was wonderful that we had a familiar place to always return to. We grew up loving the water, and so much of it is due to that space. Not sure if that's helpful at all. Excited to see you all. Of course, wish it was under different circumstances. Sending hugs. I don't think he meant the last part. It's kind of like the. That's included here, so there it is. Corey, Richard's oldest, echoed the same sentiment. Said that Grandma and Grandpa's house was always a place where we connected as cousins, crabbing on the dock, fishing, sailing, going out to look for arrowheads at the point. Cameron's story is when he was young and living in Virginia, he had broken his leg on a trampoline, if I recall correctly, Cameron, which is why he's the first trampoline there. He was in a full body leg cast up to his hip, colored in John Deere green, if I recall correctly. And Grandpa fired up his John Deere lawnmower and took Cameron for a ride. His leg sticking off the concrete. Ben, Robbie's oldest, has this story. I was living with Grandma for 3 months one summer while I had an internship. We got along great, except she always complained that my room was messy and that I didn't make the bed. One day I got up with a lot of extra time, so I made the bed before I left. And when I came home, there was a chocolate kiss on the pillow. We talked about it at dinner, and I told her, it's not going to be an everyday thing. And the next day I left without doing the cleaning. When I got home, there was a pickle in a Ziploc bag. With a note that said, not sweet. One second. For Ashley's memory is next. The most meaningful compliment I was ever given to my grandpa. Allergies down here. I'm living in Pennsylvania now, so I'm not allergic to all this pollen. The most meaningful compliment I was ever given to my grandpa. Back when he still speaks to me, he asked me, Ashley, do you know what attracted me to your grandma? She said, I didn't. And Grandpa said, it was her smile. And you have that smile. And then he got all choked up and showed it to you. And I'm not getting choked up at all. That's just them too. Ashley continues to write, he may never know just how much that meant to me. Public speaking juice. But I wear that smile as much as possible today. Now, mine. And there's a couple written here, but I got the microphone, so I'm going to go beyond whatever was a lot of me. Don't worry, I've taken extensive notes. By that I mean I have not written a speech at all, so this is all off the top of the head. Terrible, I'm sure. But I've got a couple stories. With Grandpa, there was one time we were driving home, and there's a couple acre field between where I grew up and Grandma and Grandpa's house. And I see Grandpa trudging back from the burn pile with a can of gasoline under his arm, which is a recurring theme, by the way. And half of this several acre field is burnt to a crisp. And we arrived there first. We walk in the front door, and I, who's very young, didn't know the ways of the world, said, hey, Grandma, do you know the field's on fire? And she went, woo, woo, and ran out the front door. And Grandpa then trudged in the back door after depositing the canister of fuel in the garage. Said, you didn't tell your grandma, did you? Another story on the same wavelength. Grandpa and I were going to go start the burn pile. There's a paramedic theory or theme here. He had a canister of something. We didn't know if it was kerosene or gasoline, but Grandpa was destined to find out. And so a burn pile the size of a minivan. He doused it. Now you could have possibly smelled, but that's not the fun way. So he doused this burn pile with what was either kerosene or gasoline. Told me to stand back, and then way too close, lit a match and threw it. There was a Hollywood whoomph and an explosion of fire, the likes of which I have never seen before or since. And he turned to me with glee in his face and said, "Use gasoline!" I can tell you many stories, and I'll touch over some briefly. There was a time that my grandfather, as a grandpa, brought me and my pre-teenage sister to be his crew for Buccaneer regattas. And this old man and these two young kids beat the absolute pants. Some of you may be here, I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. Beat the absolute year after year. There was like several years where his knowledge and expertise trounced everything. It was masterpiece. I watched a master painter. Excuse me. The Midnight Rider is silver, blue. It was bare bones. It was a hot rod. The interior was not much to look at, but boy, howdy could she fly. And again, at the helm was a master. And we would fly that thing out back. I was with my dad for Grandpa's last sale. We ended up in Coin Jock Arena. And I ordered, as a 22-year-old, not realizing Grandpa's paying and I shouldn't be a debt, ordered a 64-ounce prime rib and an inlay. And I ate every bite of that prime rib the last quarter of it the next morning. But it was a life-changing moment. I mean, it was father, the oldest father, the oldest father, the oldest son, yada yada. It was wonderful. And I'm going to tell you some grandma stories. Again, bear with me because this is not the last time we're going to reminisce about Carrie and Janet Sindel. But this is the last time that we're all together to reminisce about Carrie and Janet Sindel. So I'm going to milk it for all it's worth.
Like father, like son.
My childhood was wonderful. I grew up next to Grandma. I grew up on the water. I grew up next to Grandma and Grandpa. And my childhood was filled with fishing and crabbing and sailing. Not so much swimming because the sand-nose were so thick you could walk from here to Windmill Point across them. Nowadays, these kids have it easy. They can swim without getting stung, but Grandma had to have the baking soda on hand constantly. So it's a better time. Grandma and Grandpa's house was the center hub of the family. And I grew up around family. And I was so blessed that I didn't really realize how blessed I was for this family. Until many years later. But you never knew who was going to come by. The Taylors, the Mensers, the Sindels. There's always someone there. There was always cheer, good fun, fishing and crabbing, and sailing and swimming. It's amazing.
And drinking.
And, well, yes. This wouldn't be a single funeral without an open bar for us. Let's be honest. That was the happiest moment that I heard about this funeral. And Grandma's pot roast. If you have never tasted Grandma's pot roast, you have missed an era, and there is no coming back from that, and I am so sorry for you. It was succulent, meaty, delicious. Her gravy was velvety and rich. Her potatoes, mashed potatoes, creamy and silky. And Grandpa made the Caesar salad. Made from the gods, Caesar salad. There's only one, but still. And we would have these family gatherings, these family dinners. And sometimes it was the crabs that we caught off the dock or walking Ware Point. And sometimes it was the fish that we returned back from fishing. And it was a lot. Every time we asked Grandma what's for dinner, and she said pot roast, we would all cheer. All the cousins, all the little ones would cheer for Grandma's pot roast. And then we would be sitting down and enjoying this family dinner where we can all talk and love and speak real things, from jokes to busting chops to true soul-wrenching conversations about lessons in life that we learned the hard way. And I have a PhD in that. And then in the middle of dinner, Grandma will pop up like a cork, the rolls! And she would pop the rolls in the oven almost every single time. And sometimes they were charred to a crisp, sometimes they were just a little bit burnt, but they were always overcooked. Bless her heart. And so, for the next, the story about Grandma, I will say, when she was crossed, and I was about 24, 25. I had a wife at the time and my son, and we were getting ready to travel the 4 hours back up north where I live now, unfortunately, where I live, which I love. And I was fishing off the dock because I love fishing, and I love the water, and I love the dock. But I was getting ready to go, and I caught the best fish off my grandma's dock. In 37 years that I have been alive, the best fish I've ever caught off her dock, I think, I don't have a picture, I think it was an 18-inch gray trout.
It was this big.
It was, well, I had a picture somewhere, I think it was a gray trout, but it was the best fish by far I've ever caught off there. But I'm getting ready to go. And so we take a picture, I haven't found it yet. And then I release it back into the water and get ready to go, and Grandma is cross. She said, I would have eaten that. Why did you put that back in the water? And so from then on, any time that me or my cousins go crabbing or fishing, we would always give Grandma the first cut. Every fish we kept, every fillet, Grandma got her cut. Every crab, every soft crab, she got her cut. And in the waning years of her life, the only time I was able to see her escape the prison of her aging body is the rapture in her face when we fed her the fish. Now, first off, she didn't like the fact that we were cooking for her. She was very cross initially, and we had to remind her, Grandma, you have cooked us so many meals from the time that we were not those kids up until a few years ago. It is our turn to take them. And then she would accept it, and then we feed her crab or fish or clams or soft crab, and the ecstasy in her face. It was worth every minute. And so Grandma, from that time on, always got her cut, always. And there's another story. And for this story, I will ask you to forgive me a little bit of exposition. I have arrived in my life where I am, which is a blessed place, through a road of lots of potholes, mostly of my own creation. There have been many life decisions I have made where handfuls of people way wiser than I have raised more than an eyebrow with just cause. But every time I would spend time with Grandma in the last 5 years in her alone, she would say, she would say the same thing. She would make sure to tell me that she loved me and that she was proud of the man that I became. Proud of the man that I become. Proud of my boys and the way I was raising them. Every single time for about 5 years during a tumultuous time where I made difficult decisions, and that meant the world to me. And so this went way beyond reading the stories, and hopefully you'll forgive me. But in driving down and thinking about this, I realized that we can't choose our family at birth. No one can. But if I had the choice, every time I would choose this family. And for all of my life up until recently, Grandma and Grandpa were always there. They were the hub, the center wheel. But they haven't left so much as passed the torch. The next generation, we're already on the works and continuing that. And the thing that I will leave you with is that to create and propagate a family of honesty and functional alcoholism. And good cheer and love and deep, honest conversations, and to have that propagate from generation to generation to generation, to where every family gathering is a party, a celebration. That is something that almost no families are privileged to achieve. And so, Grandma and Grandpa, for whatever it's worth, I'm proud of you too. Thank you.